למנצח אל שושנים, עדות לאסף מזמור. ישראל האזין, הנוי כצאן יוסף יושב הקרדין הופיע לפני אפרים ובנימין ומנשה, עוררה את גבורתך ולך לישועתה לנו. אלוהים השיבנו והאר פניך ונבשע.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
So we'll give just a brief intro today. So we'll just do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who has set us apart by His commandments and commanded us to occupy ourselves in the words of His instruction, His Torah. And the first verse reads, we're in Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 7, starting in verse 12. והיה עקב תשמעון את המשפטים האלה ושמרתם ועשיתם אותם ושמר אדוני אלוהיך לך את הברית ואת החסד אשר נשבע לאבותיך. Then it shall come to pass, because you listen to these judgments and keep and do them, that Adonai your God will keep with you His covenant and His grace, aka loving kindness, which He swore to your forefathers. This is one of the most powerful verses of Scripture. All of Scripture is important, but as far as giving us an understanding of how our covenant relationship works with the Most High, He tells us that it's reciprocal. Right here, we have a clear-cut example of what covenant is about. It's two parties, and there's action that's required. So, keeping that in mind, I want us to read briefly Numbers 14:24. And it says, but my servant Caleb, because he has had a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land which he entered, and his descendants shall take possession of it. Now, without going too deep into who Caleb was, remember that he was a third generation restored back into the covenants of Israel. He was an Edomite. He was a Kenazi. Even though he was a descendant of Abraham, he was from a group of descendants of Abraham that were not living according to the instruction of the Most High. But he not only reincorporated himself as his father and grandfather did, but he also became a prince in Judah, and he was blessed mightily. But I want to pay attention to the words that it says, Ve'avdi Kalev Ekev. So Ekev is the same word that we saw here. It says, because. They're translating it as because, which is a decent translation, but it means following. Ekev literally comes from the word heel. Remember, Jacob's name is Yaakov, from the same word, heel, because it has to do with your walk, how you walk out your life, and what path you take. Really, what path are you taking? So, because Caleb followed and had he followed the Most High Spirit completely. Because of that, the Most High blessed him in fullness and brought him into the covenants, brought him into the land. So it doesn't matter what your background is. If you follow the Most High and are 100% committed to Him, He will not only lift you up, but He will incorporate you within His people and move you up in ranks. It doesn't matter who doesn't accept you. It doesn't matter who doesn't want to recognize you as part of the Commonwealth of Israel. If the Most High says you're part of the Commonwealth of Israel, Caleb is a great example. We're not doing the Torah portion on him, but I want to mention him because in this Torah portion, it speaks about you're the most beloved among all the nations. The other nations are not beloved in this manner. And so somebody can misunderstand and think, well, the Most High don't love the other nations. Well, that would be opposite of what Scripture teaches, because we have many people throughout the Torah portions that joined Israel. But I just want to use Caleb as an example because it's using that keyword Ekev, following that he submitted to the Spirit and was obedient. He was raised up and used in a mighty way and even rose up in the ranks. And so with that in mind, I want to read every year when I get to the Torah portion, Ekev, I like to read Romans 2:25 and 26. I think up to 27. It says, he says, for indeed, circumcision is of value if, and we're going to go with this word Ekev, amnam yesh orech lamila Ekev, so if or following, you are a doer of the Torah. So I'm going to pause there. What does that mean? As we've said several times, whether Christian or Jewish, once saved, always saved doctrine is not accurate. You don't do one ritual act, or you don't get born into a particular position in life that gives you a ticket. You need justification. You need justification to secure your covenant with the Most High, because it's reciprocal. And because of our weakness and our failure to do so, we needed Messiah because of our lack. But even with that, that doesn't excuse you from not being a doer of the Torah. Not even getting into who were the doers of the Torah in the first century. That's a discussion for another day. It's the simple interpretation of you need to be living out this Torah. Not just in theory or philosophy, but actually making that effort to live according to Scripture, your walk. But if you depart from Torah, your circumcision becomes uncircumcision. So, for Rav Shaul and for the Messianic movement, being born Jewish does not guarantee you salvation. So, it's not something that the grafted in brethren need to idolize. Oh, they're Jewish, I need to idolize them. Let me just follow whatever a random Jewish brother says. No. According to Rav Shaul, the type of Jewish leadership that we submit to, and we obviously do need to submit to Jewish leadership, but not just any Jewish leadership. Those who are doers of the Torah. If they're not doers of the Torah, then those aren't the type of leaders we should submit to, even if they're born Jewish. Because what does he follow and say? Continuing, he says, let me get back to my place. Verse 26. Thank you, sir. So if a man who is uncircumcised keeps the precepts of the Torah, or the commands of the Torah, which is really what it is. Precept is a commandment. You can check that. You know that famous verse, precept upon precept. A lot of Christian brothers like to say that. Go back to the scriptures. It says commandment upon commandment in Hebrew. But anyways, just to stick with the thought, it says, will not his uncircumcision be regarded as circumcision? Wait a second. Paul is saying somebody who's keeping the commandments, who's grafted in through Yeshua. Let's be clear, the whole context is not just doing Torah, but doing it in merit of Yeshua through the power of Messiah, not through your own strength. Anybody who's doing that, proper Torah, not these wannabes who pretend to do Torah without Messiah and they want to be self-righteous and make a name for themselves. Not those guys. Those who do Torah because of Yeshua. Because Yeshua lives in them and recognizes it's not my strength, it's not my self-righteousness, I'm nobody. It's because of the Messiah who lives in me. These are the people that Rav Shaul is talking about. But I want to pause there because he's saying these non-Jews should be keeping the commandments. However you interpret Paul in other places, you cannot deny that right here is one of the clearest places that he is saying that the non-Jew should be keeping the commandments once he's been grafted in through Yeshua. Now, we can discuss why circumcision is something that he takes a pause on. Obviously, for us, it would be because they're not ready. There's a maturity that has to go into it. You don't jump into anything in life trying to be advanced. You start crawling before you walk, and you walk before you run. That's simple common sense. He goes on to say in the next verse 27, then he who is physically uncircumcised but keeps the Torah will condemn you, who have the written code and circumcision but break the Torah. And I'm just going to stand there for a moment and reconnect that with the Torah portion. So in our Torah portion, when it speaks about Israel being more beloved of all nations, it begins by saying, if you follow. So a Jewish person or an Israeli who is really living up to their calling, we should absolutely submit to their authority, respect them, and honor them. And even when they don't, we still love them, but we don't submit to them and their teachings. And you need to be able to challenge anybody and stop idolizing anybody just by their birth or their ethnicity. However, give honor when somebody does deserve it, like Rav Shaul, like Yaakov, the emissary, the brother of our master, like Rabino Goffman, who discipled Rabino Moshe, and that we're under them, and we honor them. So these are the type of brethren we want to honor, but not just any random brother. And in the flip, Rav Shaul says, and you brothers being grafted in, even if you haven't got to that level of circumcision or quote-unquote conversion in that technical sense, if you've already embraced Messiah, moved in the Spirit, and are living out the Torah to the best of your level where you're at, then you have more merit than a brother who was born into the family, but it's not behaving the way that he should be behaving. And what is the purpose of all this? To put that brother in a mode of zealousness. Not to be like, oh, look at me, you were born Jew. No. When you're adopted into a family, imagine you're adopted in and you're the adopted child, you don't flex on the natural children. The adopted father is going to look at you like, I brought you into this house off the street and you want to flex on my child that's not living right? How about be a better example to that brother? The adopted brother being zealous for the father, being obedient to the father. Let me do the yard. Let me do the chores. Whatever you say, Dad. And that's going to motivate that natural brother to zeal where he says, look at my adopted brother. Wasn't born in the family, but he's here doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Let me tighten up and do what I'm supposed to be doing. That's how we're supposed to deal with our brothers that are not maybe living to their calling. Encourage them and provoke them to zealousness. And that is the message of Ekev. When you do that, you yourselves will find yourself to be a part of this family of Israel. Following you, follow him, and he will take care of you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.